Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, today I'm going to create 3 cards using the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit for May 2021. Now this month's kit is still available, which is great news. I don't know why, because it's pretty fabulous. But it's all about ocean theme. There is some corally reefs in here. There's lots of different fish. There is a starfish, and then there is a seahorse, and sky's the limit. There's even some little Nemo fishes in there, little clownfish. So it's super, and then the sentiments in here are really nice too. So we're going to create 3 projects with this, but before I do that, I do want to share with you what's in the kit. This is your 6x8 stamp set, and that coral piece is huge. It would be great for a slimline card, a mini slimline card, or an A2 size card, or even a 5x7 card, which is nice. There's coordinating dies that will die cut out all of the images in here. And the neat thing about the dies this month, I did notice that some of the dies have an extra piece on them, and then when I die cut them out, it created a crease in the cardstock, kind of giving it a little bit of dimension, which is really neat. But and it made it helpful for lining up too, so that's the bonus too. Also included, you get some inks and embossing powders, and then some cardstock. You get 2 5.5 by 8.5 sheets of this beautiful pearl quartz cardstock. It's called Quartz Pearlescent, and then the pink is called Rose Quartz, and it's super pretty. It does have a little bit of sheen to it. Not so much the rose, but the pearl one does. And then these 3 pieces of cardstock, they're a very nice weight, but these are called the White Frost cardstock with a brocade texture. And so I thought we would use those to create our card bases. I love that little pinstripe look on that. It's not embossed, but it does have a little bit of texture to it. It's hard to explain, but I really like it. You'll see in the pictures, it photographs really well. You get 2 ink cubes. You get an intense black ink, which is great for stamping, and then you also get a contour ink, which is great for no line watercoloring. So you get 2 little options for your images, which is nice. These are nice for travel too. So that was your intense black ink, and then this is the contour. You can see it's like a light gray, so great for no line watercoloring. You also get a half an ounce container of embossing powder. I want to actually put some on some white cardstock with my Versamark ink, and I want to share with you what it looked like. When I opened the container, it was so pretty. You have like these clearish kind of crystals with the blue, and then there's some iridescent sparkle. So I was excited about this embossing powder. I wanted to see what it did. Now those clearish crystals melt in it, kind of leaving a little bit of a watery look. It is so pretty. In fact, it's called Underwater. But that is what your embossing powder does. So really pretty. And then you got that glittery, slight iridescent tint to it. So it's great for sentiments too. So that's the kit this month. We are going to jump in, and I wasn't sure how I was going to color, and I'm going to opt for my Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker. So we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring. As I said earlier, we're going to take these beautiful White Frost cardstock with the brocade texture, and I'm going to score them at 4 1/4. And then we'll just reinforce that score line. They're pretty heavy weight, so this is going to make great card bases, and it's going to give me that lined background in the back. So we're going to use these for our card bases today. We'll set those aside, and we are going to do some stamping, starting off with the large coral image first. I brought in my Misty, and we're stamping on some watercolor cardstock. This is actually Ranger's distressed watercolor cardstock. I'm not using the textured side, I'm using the smooth side. Just makes it easier for stamping and coloring. Now I stamped it with my Versamark ink, you can't tell, but I'm going to go over it with white embossing powder, and then we're going to melt it, which is kind of very hard to see on camera, and so basically I'm going to skip the coloring for my images, guys. I actually had to tilt the paper up in my hand to do my watercoloring, and you wouldn't be able to see it when on video anyway, but I just used my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers for this. Now for the images, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to stamp them with Versamark ink, and then we're going to add some white embossing powder, and we'll melt this. I stamped a few extra fish, and then I did eventually do one extra background of that corally, large coral piece. So we have extra. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, but I just wanted to have extra. But I'm trying to show you the embossed detail, but it's really hard with white on white. So here's my markers. Again, I started to film it and I thought, well, this is going to take a little bit of time because I wanted to take my time, and you wouldn't be able to see because for the most part I had it in my hand, almost at a horizontal, actually vertical position. So, but there are my watercolored in images. I chose some very, very bright colors, some oranges and some fuchsias, a little bit of purple, a little bit of green, and then I'm going to bring in some blues too. But they are so neat. And then again, the dies this month have that little extra metal piece. Don't cut those off because those are great for lining up. And then also, it kind of differentiates the fish head from the fish body, if that makes any sense. And then the starfish on your larger image, it kind of gives it a little bit of dimension. But these are all of the images in total that I had did. I ended up coloring in one more of those large coral pieces again, and I'm putting them on some scrap paper, and then I'm going to take my white iridescent shimmer mist. This is from Hero Arts, and it's similar to Perfect Pearls. I am going to go ahead and spray my images that I watercolored in to give them a little bit of extra shiny pearly color, and then we're going to set these aside to dry. But I love the white with those bright colors. I just think it's real soft and real pretty. Okay, while those are drying, we are going to go ahead and stamp a background. Hero Arts has a fabulous background that are add-ons, but I didn't order it this month, but I did have a background stamp called the Circle Pattern Bold Prints, and I thought this would make great background for our card today. So this is what it looks like, kind of a huge amount of circles. I'm going to place this in the my Misty, my larger one, and I'm going to remove my mouse pad. I did tape down my panel with my tape runner just so it doesn't move, and then I'm going to ink up my background stamp with my Versamark ink. I wanted to use the embossing powder so bad, and so this was a perfect stamp for that. I covered the entire background, and then I'm going to go over it with that beautiful underwater embossing powder. We'll just cover it little sections at a time, and it's so neat to have that sparkle with the blue that's not so pale that you can't use it for a sentiment, but not so bright that that you don't want to use it for a background. So it's pretty neat stuff. Okay, I melted both of my panels. Like I said, these are just 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panels, and these are ready to go. Now I'm going to create backgrounds with this. So for one of them, I'm going to bring in my rounded corner rectangle infinity dies, and we're going to create a window on the inside. I'm going to use the positive piece of the window and the negative. It's about a 1 inch thick frame that we're going to create. I'm going to find some tape, and I'm just going to use the tape that I used to secure my dies, run that through my die cutting machine, and then we have a window that we'll use on one card, and then a smaller panel that we can use on another. I wanted the window and the panel to be small enough and big enough so you can see that the brocade texture on the card bases that we created with that cardstock. Now this panel, I just followed along a couple of the circles to create kind of a loopy look, and then we're going to put that on one of our cards also. Now we have a lot of images, so what I'd like to do is kind of play around with the placement. So I'll take all of our images and kind of arrange them. For my first card today, we're going to use the large piece, the large frame, and we're going to use the orangey coral that we could die cut out, and then I think we'll use our green fish and a pink fish, just different colors, kind of switching it up. I didn't want to get two colors that were pretty close in color. I do want to use the starfish for the corner, and I think that's going to work out great. I'm going to go ahead and take my card base directly, bring in my mini MISTI, and we're going to stamp the sentiment that says "You're fantastic." And I'm going to use my little mini intense black ink cube. And I did add my frame on top so I knew where to place it. Once my sentiment's stamped, I'm going to take my frame, we're going to flip it around, and I'm going to add some foam tape behind it just to give this a little bit of dimension. And then after we have our adhesive added, we'll remove the release paper and add this to our card. And you can see it's going to be a full card front frame. And I love the detail on the inside of the window, and then that embossing powder on the outside. It looks so pretty. I'm going to go ahead and add my images how I want them, and then I think I'm going to change my mind. I think we're going to add the blue fish instead of the green one. I think it's going to flow a little bit better. Okay, I thought we were missing something, so I went through my cardstock, and I'm going to take a piece of Hero Arts sand cardstock. It's a real nice craft cardstock, and if you guys haven't tried the Hero Arts Hero Hues cardstock, you will be very impressed. The weight of this cardstock is fabulous, and it is great for card bases, but also for layering. I just took a piece of the sand cardstock, and I added a little, I did add a little curve to it, but I covered it up. But I wanted to add a little beach at the bottom, a little bit of sand. So that's card one. We're going to embellish it all together when I finish the other two cards. Next, we are going to go ahead and mat the inside of our frame piece to some more of that sand cardstock. I'm just going to layer them both together. I used a slightly larger rounded corner rectangle die. And then this is going to go in the center of our card base. And I know I wanted to use one of those coral pieces. Wasn't sure which one. One of them I didn't completely color in the bottom because I knew I'd chop it off. But this one I did. But I just chopped off the left side. I'm going to take the die that I used to cut out the window, the smaller one, and then I'm going to stick it in the die to where the coral is on top of it. So when I run this through my die cutting machine, I'm not cutting the coral on top, I'm just rounding the corner on the bottom. You can see here. I wanted that coral to be overhanging just slightly on top. Now I did cover up most of my embossed detail, but the layers on it I think look really pretty. I did pop up that coral piece and placed it on the inside of my little panel here. Next I added my seahorse. My green fish is going to go on this one, and then I also added my little orange fish here on the bottom. Now I need my sentiment, but I wanted it on my panel for this card. So I'm trying to figure out which one I want, and I opted for Stay Salty. I thought that was super cute. And I think vellum is the perfect medium to use when you have a lot of layers and textures and you want to tuck a sentiment in there. I'm stamping this with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink on my vellum, and then we're going to cover it with clear embossing powder. I'm going to go ahead and melt this, and then we will trim down this so the width of it is the width of the smallest rounded rectangle panel, and then we're good to go. I thought we would add the fish to the vellum, that way we can hide the adhesive behind it. I need to add a foam square to the vellum here because we have a little area to add this fish to, and then I'll take this next fish. The nice thing is since I did heat embossing, the foam adhesive removes easily. If it was paper, I would have probably tore it, so it came up pretty easy. Next I did add adhesive behind my fish. or will, and then we're gonna go ahead and just place our sentiment back on here. So there's quite a few layers here. It looks actually very dimensional in real life, and I just love all the bright colors of this. And basically this finishes card number 2. We're gonna embellish it with some bubbles in just a little bit. For my final card today, we're gonna take our embossed piece that we trimmed around those circles. We have our coral piece left, and we have 2 fish and then our jellyfish. I'm going to go ahead and take a craft knife, and I'm going to cut a little slit over the largest circle on the very bottom. I thought we would slide the coral piece inside here, kind of tuck it. I think I need it a little bit bigger, so we'll cut a little bit more off the left side here. This is the coral piece that I did not finish. So we're going to tuck it, and then anything overhanging, I'll just take my scissors and trim off the bottom. It's just so we have a straight edge. And then we're going to flip this panel over. I'm going to take my tape runner and add some tape behind it, but not behind the coral piece. On the bottom of the coral piece, yes. Top, no, because I want to take a piece of foam adhesive and add a little dimension. I want it to be popped up just a little bit. So we'll take some foam tape and put it behind our coral piece. And I'm loving the way this looks. I did have this overhanging just a bit, and I'm gonna scoot it over so it's not overhanging. Okay, for my sentiment, I thought we'd bring in a circle. So I die cut out a circle with white cardstock. And then we have the sentiment that says, salt water heals everything. I thought this would be perfect for this card, kind of make a soothing card. We'll stamp it with our intense black ink. And then I did stamp it on the upper half of the circle. I'm going to go ahead and use my paper trimmer and trim off the bottom. And then this straight edge will go on the bottom of my card base. I'm just making sure it's nice and even. I'm going to add a piece of foam tape behind my sentiment, and then this is going to go in that circle that we used the craft knife and cut out, just below it. Lovely. Okay. And there's kind of a lot going on with that coral, so I'm just going to add 2 of the fish. I have my blue fish, and then I also have my orangey corally colored fish. I added those 2. I didn't end up using my jellyfish. I'll save that for another project, or you could put it on the inside if you wanted to. But I just love these fish. I think it's nice and summery too. Now for bells and whistles, all I'm going to do is add some iridescent bubbles. I'm going to use my glue and add little dots where I want the bubbles, and then I'll use my jewel picker and then add, I'm actually going to add one of the larger bubbles on my vellum. I'm going to glue it down, and this way I could put a little piece of foam adhesive behind the vellum. That corner was popping up. But I added my bubbles, and then last but not least, our sentiments are black, so I wanted to bring in a little extra black. I didn't want to do splatter, but I think if I dotted the eyes of the fish with my Nuvo crystal drops, this is the ebony black, I think this is going to work out perfect. And it did. It really just kind of brought everything together. I just dotted the eyes, and then that finishes my project today, guys, using the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit for May 2021. And again, kits are still available. I'll list them down below if you want to check them out. And then also, guys, if you want to visit my blog, there's still shots over there. But I thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.